What's going on, guys? Jonathan Shane here, functional nutritional therapy practitioner specializing in metabolic health and women's hormones. Today, what soothes you? All right, so as I talked about in the intro, today we're going to be talking about what soothes you. What what soothes you when stress happens, when life happens. Now, you may hear that and not really have an answer, not really understanding what I'm talking about. Or you may hear that and a list of 10 things pops up in your mind. But this really stems from a client call I've had recently where we were talking about emotional eating. I work with people on establishing, those long-term healthy mindsets as well as macros, hormones, and all the things that I work with. And we were talking about emotional eating and this idea of like soothing yourself. And I thought it'd be really good to make a video and talk about what I tell clients to do to help them work through this, because this is a very complex conversation. We on social media, we like to make it simple. We like to give these like bottlenecked answers, very authoritative, and hey, just eat steak, right? And don't worry about it. But the thing is that for most people, it's a lot more complicated than that. And so I kind of want to peel back the layers and give you some things that you can do to help deal with this. So the first question is what is self-soothing when it comes to discomfort and stress and stuff when we're talking about it in that context. And really, things that soothe you are things that you go to for comfort, things that calm you, things that give you a sense of calmness or comfort, right? These things soothe you. Now, in this topic, in this context, we're talking about food, right? Food, we tend to go to food because it soothes us. This can also be said for alcohol. This can be said for drugs. This can be said for religion. This can be said for good and bad things, which is an important part we're going to get back to later. But good and bad, we do things that soothe us. Humans like to chase comfort. We're always trying to put the roof over our heads, so to speak. And so understanding that when it comes to food in particular, the conversation is more complicated because humans use food for everything. There's a funeral, there's a feast. There's a wedding, there's a feast. There's a birth, there's usually a feast. There's a birthday, there's a feast. Holiday, feast. Bad day, feast. Good day, feast. Graduate school, feast. Feast, 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 feast. We use food as a response to all kinds of emotions. And this tends to translate to day-to-day life in us. We think they're synonymous with each other, or we treat them like they're synonymous, and they're not. You can accept that you are going to have grandma's pie on Christmas, and then also accept that you're not just going to go down a whole pint of Ben & Jerry's because you had a bad day at work. That's how a lot of us think, though, even on a subconscious level. And so that's what makes food complicated, is that like there are times where food can be used to celebrate. And you might not ever touch, grandma's pie again or whatever, and that's completely up to you. I know it's something that I don't do personally anymore, but maybe you want to, right? And that's not really the point of the video. It's more of the idea that holidays really should be in their own box, and just understand that food is used to be celebrated, but that shouldn't translate to day-to-day soothing, which it does for a lot of people. Now, the real question is does the thing that's soothing you give you what we call a good ROI, which is return on investment? Meaning what you put into it, does it give you good things or more things long term? Food, for example, has a terrible ROI because most of the time the food we use for soothing is not good for us long term, and we do it a lot. And so although it's giving us a good temporary comfort, the return on investment is super negative. It's not good at all. Diabetes, dementia, Alzheimer's, osteosclerosis, heart attacks. I mean, go on and on about how hyper-processed foods don't have a good ROI. And so that doesn't mean that if someone wants to have some of those things occasionally, it's necessarily all out bad. It's more about recognizing what am I putting into myself and what is it giving back to me, and is it good, right? Alcohol can also be used in this example, right? It's got a horrible ROI. It does numb you temporarily, but the return on investment when it's used chronically is liver disease, broken relationships, anger problems, all the things that come with alcoholism. And so you have to ask yourself, what is the thing that I'm choosing to soothe myself with? What is its return on investment? What is it giving me? And so the way that we do that is what I call the lie and truth process. And so the first thing you have to do is you have to identify the lie that you're telling yourself. When you get home from a stressful day and you go to, eat that cupcake or eat that strudel or drink that beer or whatever your soother is, you have to ask yourself, what is the lie that I'm telling myself, right? This is going to make me happy. But it's not, because guilt, shame, dread, and things that actually lead to you doing it again surface right after you do it. So the return on investment emotionally is really not good. It's just in the moment we want that impulsive, temporary, quick fix, instant gratification, comfort. And so we go to those things. Already knowing in the back of our minds that it's going to start a chain reaction that's going to make us feel bad enough to do it again the next day and do it again the next day. Now, some experts will say the trick is to not have guilt and shame. That if you empower yourself to have something or indulge in something, if you avoid the guilt and shame aspect of it, then you will limit the amount of times you do it. Therefore, you can have what a lot of health gurus and health coaches refer to as balance, having a balanced life. And this is true. This is true for everybody, right? You should not have the guilt and shame after making a choice. You have to be willing to use, poor choices as an opportunity to learn more about yourself and give yourself grace, and then celebrate the good choices. Absolutely 100%. You should not have a guilt and shame cycle. However, for some people, it's not about the guilt and shame. That is something that's been curated for sure by being part of the toxic diet culture and things like that. But it's the substance itself. It's the lie they tell themselves that makes them go to that food choice in general. And for people like that, they can't have that thing. Because that thing, the cycle will never end. If there's no guilt and shame, they'll just do it anyways because there's no more guilt and shame. They have no control when it comes to that because that thing has become a god. It's become something that they worship. And I know we're getting into theology here, and I know this is a hard pill for some people to swallow. But humans are designed to worship. We worship something. It can be ourselves. It could be our future selves. It could be our kids. It could be our careers. It could be God. It could be food. It could be drugs. We all lean on something to give us sustainment, to help us get through the day, to help us feel comfortable. And I'm telling you, food makes a bad God, but we tend to lean on it. I know I've done it. 10 years of bulimia plus. I've definitely done it. And so we have to be willing to stop and start asking the question of, why am I doing this? Is this really giving me what I think it's giving me? What am I getting out of this? Start to try and identify the lie. Now, and you might find that you watch this video and you're struggling with some of these things and you're having some epiphanies right now, or maybe you're just like, oh my gosh, that's me. How do I deal with this? You might find that you start asking that question after the fact. That's not bad. I want to encourage you that's good, because when you start asking the question after the fact, you'll start to ask the question before the fact, and eventually you'll stop doing the act altogether. It's better to start somewhere than nowhere. So don't think that because you have a bad day and then you start asking yourself, why did I do that? You'd be surprised if you actually get a journal or something and you get intentional with yourself about why you were doing that, and you start to flesh that out. You'd be really surprised the impact that could have, pay you dividends mentally down the road, right? And so start asking yourself why. Identify the lie. And then replace it with the truth. Holes, void will be filled by something. So either you can choose to fill it with something yourself, or it'll find something else to fill it for you. Okay? For me, with my bulimia, it was Jesus. And I think that that's the ultimate answer for everybody. I'll be blunt. I think finding Christ and being born again and leaning on God and reading the Psalms and praying and letting that be the source of your soothing is the best ROI. It pays dividends now and after you die. It pays dividends. It impacts, it creates positive character traits. It makes you treat yourself better, others better, family members better, everybody better. You act better. You have a stronger moral foundation. It's just better. The return on investment is incredible, right? And that really worked well for me. But you have to find something. Maybe for right now, maybe it's just going for a walk. Maybe for right now, it's going to the gym. Maybe for right now, it's reading a mindset book. Maybe for right now, it's putting in your 10 top hits and sitting in a chair. Maybe for you, it's having a glass of water and sitting outside. You have got to try and find another soothing technique that has good ROI, that has good return on investment. And what you're going to find when you start this process is at first it's going to be difficult. You're going to have to ask yourself some hard questions. But eventually, you'll start asking the question of why am I doing this before you do it? And sometimes you'll give in and sometimes you won't. And then you'll start noticing that even though you want the food or the substance, you start to lean towards the healthy habit anyways because you like the way it makes you feel afterwards. And then next thing you know, 9 times out of 10, because it will happen sometimes, but 9 times out of 10, when you get stressed out, you don't even think about it anymore. You immediately go to the healthy thing. And that's what's going to happen. You will start to change these patterns, right? Atomic Habits, the book Atomic Habits talks a lot about this. You'll start to change these habits, these patterns, and you'll start to develop healthy habits and healthy patterns that start to compound and pay dividends over the rest of your life. And so I know it's a lot. I know you're probably having some like aha moments, maybe some connecting some dots. I'd love to talk to you about it. If you agree with me or disagree with me, I'd love to help you flesh it out in the comment section. I appreciate you guys. Again, if you haven't liked the video, please do. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Share this with somebody that needs it. Somebody that needs the aha moment. I'm here to help. I know this is a more mindset, mental conversation, but I really wanted to flesh it out with y'all. So I love y'all. I hope y'all have a great day. I'll talk to you in the next one.